People in our own backyards are hurting. There are insecurities around food, economics, mental health, access to justice, healthcare, and our society continues to become more divisive. But there is hope. Right here in Chicagoland, there are people and organizations who are on the front lines, working to bring about positive and transformative change. Each week, we're going to meet some of these agents of change and examine how they are spurring innovative ideas and finding solutions to push our society forward in a more just direction. I'm Sufyan Sohel, and this is Change Agents. For many years, the conversation about equity in higher education has focused on the serious gaps in access for Black and Latinx students. Awareness has also been growing that getting into college is not enough. Black and Latinx students are also much less likely to graduate and are significantly underrepresented in important fields such as engineering, education, mathematics, statistics, and the physical sciences. When gender disparities are taken into consideration, inequalities are even starker. For example, white men earn bachelor's degrees in engineering at roughly 6 times the rate of Hispanic women and more than 11 times the rate of Black women. Even as more Chicago students go to college, the neighborhood where they live has a major impact on the degree they ultimately attain. Research from the University of Chicago shows that there is a need for deeper investments in housing security, healthcare access, transportation, and mentorship to address barriers facing Chicago students. On tonight's episode of Change Agents, we're going to meet a remarkable individual who, 11 years ago, decided to lead the charge to empower young Black women in some of our city's most underserved communities and work to prepare them for college, their future careers, and to become change agents in their own communities. I am thrilled to welcome Jamila Trammell, the founder and leader of Ladies of Virtue.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, absolutely.
Jamila, I've been reading a lot about you and Ladies of Virtue, and I am so impressed. But let's take a few steps back. You know, I read an article that you wrote last year where you cited a 2017 Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality report. It said Black girls require less nurturing support and comfort, but at the same time, Black girls know more about adult topics and sex. What do these biases show about the perception of our young Black women?
Yeah, that article was just really touched my heart because it really represented what Black girls have been sharing with us all along, that they weren't supported in their schools, that they were having a hard time navigating their way through to and through college and even in the workplace. And so when I saw that article that said that adults view Black girls ages 5 to 19 as needing less nurturing and less supports and less comfort than their peers, it was, it's disheartening, and it's due to stereotypes. And what happens when they're not supported at that age, they end up being disciplined higher rates in terms of being in school, higher suspension rates. And so and then you see, as we'll talk later, that trend remains even when they become young women to older women in terms of not supported in the workplace and so forth. And so it is disheartening, but that's why I started Ladies of Virtue, to stand in the gap, to be that mentor and to provide that support that our girls need.
I love that. And we're going to talk about Ladies of Virtue in a second, but let's go back to what you were just referencing of how that problem then continues from youth into early adulthood and then later on as well. Why does that happen? Like what are you seeing? What are you witnessing in that persistent problem?
Yeah, so what we're witnessing is a lot of times, and this happens in education, where our girls may present as tough or angry, and what they're not seeing behind the scenes is that there may be some issues at home. Many of our girls serve as caregivers to their younger siblings, for example. There may be some where I remember walking into a classroom, and there was a young girl that didn't even know me, but I came and gave her a hug and said, "Oh, how are you doing?" And she shared with me that her stepfather had just been killed through gun violence. And so a lot of times when you go through that, there is a certain persona that may present itself. And so then from those stereotypes, it's like, oh, she's strong, she can handle it. And that support is not provided. The support being mental health supports, additional, care that may be needed at home. For example, additional parenting supports may be needed as well. So there are a lot of additional supports that could happen in schools that unfortunately is just not happening.
And then those that continues then on and stays persistent with them as they grow into adults. And do you see that as limiting their potential as adults, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to the stereotypes
Okay.
from the media to unconscious biases, for example, where I just read an article not too long ago, just last week, that said that Black women in the workplace have ambition, who are in their mind want to be successful in that particular role in that particular company, but yet are provided the least amount of support as it relates to mentorship and even sponsorship within that organization. And so, unfortunately, and systemic racism, we have to shout that out as well.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, between adultifications, racism, there's so many unconscious biases. There's so many different layers that impacts Black women the most.
We had one of our first guests was a mental health professional who focused on Black women, and these were a lot of statistics, as you were saying, as one of the highest groups facing mental health issues, but often untreated because of so many different factors as well. But I appreciate you acknowledging and stating that too. You also mentioned as they grow, so we see things like wage gaps where Black women are paid considerably less than other women and white men and men in general. And also both small businesses and nonprofits receiving less funding and less revenue than others. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's another disheartening statistic. I hate to always be the bearer of bad news. But one I just shared with my staff not too long ago about charitable giving around the country. And so when you look at the stat around charitable giving and what percent of charitable giving goes to just women and girls organizations, I asked them to guess. Some said 30%, some said 50%, some said 15%. At that time, it was 1.6%. Now, the latest research I saw 1.9%, so we're a whopping 0.3 increase. But, nevertheless, it's under 2% of all charitable giving goes towards women and girls. And so, as a society, we say that it's important to invest in Black and brown women and girls, and this is a huge issue. But when you look at where the money is going, it's not to organizations that focus on women and girls. And then what's also upsetting is that when you peel back the layers, organizations that are founded and led by Black women, what am I going to say? They get less funding as well. So even organizations that focus on the same exact topic for same exact focus for a nonprofit organization, if that organization is led and founded by a Black woman, that organization is going to receive less funding. So it's and small businesses, they have similar stats as well. It is upsetting in terms of we keep saying that Black women need that support, we need that investment, but it just doesn't seem as though that's changing.
Oh, that's really disheartening. Could you identify any factors outside of racism or minimization of your work or others that are causing this less support?
Well, based on the article that I read, this was by Echo and Green, there was some other factors. Of course, systemic racism is a large part, but when you peel back the onion on that, it really is based off of building trust. And so like and trust someone who's similar to you. And so if I am a white woman who is the head of the philanthropy department, most likely I'm going to trust someone who looks like me, or maybe someone that I know versus someone that I don't. And so that's another part of it as well. And then the other parts that this article mentioned is that when, just thinking back about your network, oftentimes when you are a Black individual, you don't have, you can't call the CEO of Nike to say, hey, I need you to come donate $1 million to my organization. And there are those individuals who don't look like us that have those resources. And so when you are able to call your friends that are in the C-suite or even directors of marketing or what have you that have control of the dollars, that then in turn means less funding for Black women. So
Thank you.
mhm.
So we're going to shift now to you and Ladies of Virtue.
Yeah, no
You have
problem.
2 master's degrees. You
Oh,
are an Impact Fellow, a Schweitzer Fellow, you're a licensed minister. You went from health management to education, and then 11 years ago, you founded Ladies of Virtue. Why
yes.
did you create Ladies of Virtue? Like, what was your inspiration and motivation behind
Yeah.
doing that?
Yeah. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago. And my dad I always share the story, but my dad used to always say, "You're an African girl. You can do anything you put your mind to." And when you're young, you're like, "Oh, okay, dad, whatever." But that really stuck with me because he said it all the time, regardless if I was young, he was putting me to bed. So even if I was in high school or
Mm.
college, that was just something that he repeated over and over and over again. And so even though my parents divorced when I was 5, the one thing that remained consistent in my life was the fact that both parents always pushed me to overcome any barriers or obstacles that stood in my way. They're both entrepreneurs too, so I saw how they pursued their passions at all costs. And so it wasn't until my junior year in high school where some of my friends in the community, I noticed I was preparing for college and applying and thinking about where I'm going to go and all of that. And I noticed that some of my friends weren't doing that. And I also saw that their parents weren't pushing them to be thinking about it either. And whereas in my house, if I wasn't thinking about it, it would be like, okay, let's stop. What's going on? You're going to make a plan right now. And that's when I realized the power of having those positive role models in your life. And for the first time, I was like, oh, there is a difference when someone has positive people that are pushing them, whether it's parents or mentors or teachers, versus someone who doesn't have that network or that village in their
Sure.
life. So that was the first time I saw that. So I graduated from high school, then I went to college at U of I, and that's when I decided to become a mentor because I thought about my childhood experiences and I wanted to become that positive role model in someone else's life. So I did that as a sophomore, and honestly, I have not looked back since. It's been 20 years. And still mentoring, still doing what
Yeah.
I love to do. And I consider mentoring a calling is deeper than just a passion. It's really a calling that I, have been put on this earth to do. So I started Ladies of Virtue 11 years ago, just out of a deeper passion for just something I've always been doing, which is mentoring. But in terms of why Ladies of Virtue focuses on leadership is as I was mentoring girls in the community, I was at YMCA, I was at Urban League, you name it, I was probably volunteering for an organization in some way, shape, or form. And I saw how I would talk to them like after the workshops and different things. And I saw how the mentoring component was needed, but the leadership piece, girls were resilient and creative and talking about issues that they were passionate about, but they didn't see themselves as a leader. That was the piece I thought was interesting. They didn't see themselves as a leader. They could point to everybody else, but when it was time to look in the mirror, they were like, oh no, that's not me. And so that's why Ladies of Virtue focuses on leadership as well as mentorship, because I want them to know that they're already a leader. As soon as they come into Ladies of Virtue, you're already a leader. But our job is to provide them with the resources and opportunities so that they can become the strong, confident leader that they know that they can be.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back with our next guest.
Sylvia Snowden is a walking, talking, brightly shining example of what being a native Chicagoan looks like. That feel right?
Yeah, and people see me host Political Forum, but they've never seen me quite like this. So I really hope they tune into the arena.
Hyperlocal television designed to inform, empower, engage, and activate. Join me and this talented lady in the arena Friday on CAN TV 19 and streaming on cantv.org.
Welcome back. I am inspired. Jamila shared with us her inspiration for creating Ladies of Virtue and why this work is so important. My next guest is one of her program participants. I am honored to have with me Danae Weaver, a senior at Kenwood Academy. Danae, thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to have me.
Of course. Danae, tell me about your experiences with Ladies of Virtue.
Ladies of Virtue has been an outstanding program that I've been a part of since I was about in 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
Never want to leave because it's such a great program. I've got to meet new people from different schools, different cultures, different activities that I've never thought I would have tried. And it's overall a fun program to be in.
Tell me a little bit about your experiences. Tell me about the actual program.
I would say one of my favorite activities would be our leadership projects.
Sure.
Our projects are based around what the girls choose, examples of generational trauma, body image, and it's based around Black women or the Black culture. One of my programs, one of the leadership projects I did was generational trauma. A lot of us did generational trauma because we all have experienced it in some way. I would say one is like in Black cultures, you punish your kids for doing stuff that you weren't supposed to be doing or just to be curious. But at the same time, us in the generation now, we don't want to punish our kids like that. We feel like we should be able to talk to our parents about things that we're going through without it being, oh, you're lazy, you don't want to do anything, you shouldn't be depressed. And that's why we based ours around generational trauma, because we shouldn't have to be stuck in a situation where we can't talk to our parents about how we feel without getting neglect or, feeling down about it or not feeling open. So.
No, that's great. And what did you learn?
I learned that a lot of my peers, we all go through the same thing. Even when we don't talk about it or we don't show it. A lot of us have these open minds where we want to speak, but we don't know how we will be looked at. So I learned that LOV is a open space for everybody. If I tell you something, I wouldn't have to worry about you going to tell my parents or doing this. I know it's going to be kept between us, and that's one thing we have. We have sisterhood.
I love that. So it's a safe space for you to go to.
Yes.
So from 5th grade to 12th grade now, 7 years you've been part of the program. What brought you to LOV in the first place?
My friend, actually.
Okay.
One day, I want to say my mom just wanted me to be in a whole bunch of different programs. As of the time when I joined, I was in Girl Scouts. And I have all these hobbies and stuff. So my mom wanted me to join something else. And the lady who did her hair, her daughter was in it. Okay. So she was telling her about it. She's like, oh, well, I think I want Danae to join this. And at first, I wasn't too iffy about it. Like, I don't know if I really want to do that. But once I got to know everybody and seeing what we did, I'm like, this not a bad program to be in. So that's what really got me in it. And then my mom like, you're not leaving, so you have to stay. And I'm like, well, there's no reason for me to want to leave because I like the program.
Yeah, and you stuck with it for 7 years. It's a testament to the program. You mentioned hair. I love your hair.
Thank you.
You were mentioning earlier you colored it yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
So I have multiple hobbies. I'm into art, color.
Okay.
Like I love everything that has to do with color. I don't know when I found my passion of doing hair. Like I did my own hair. I colored it. This is actually the maybe 4th or 5th color I done had in the course of 3 months. So also LOV finds our interest and then incorporates programs to be incorporated. Like over the summer, I was an LOV intern to change the program around a look and for them to get our feedback about it. They took us to Dudley's School of Beauty. So it was a hair school, a nail school, and we were able to have a self-care day, got our nails done, got facials, stuff
awesome.
like that. And then I thought about maybe I should go to cosmetology school. So it was like, they're going to incorporate, they actually listen to us. Depending on what your interests are and stuff like that, they will have something for you.
That's wonderful. Seems like a very life-changing experience,
Yes.
and you're grateful you did it.
Yes.
So we were talking earlier, and you said through the Urban Initiative, you're doing an internship with the Obama Foundation.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that experience?
As of right now, we're in the early stages of it. We just got done doing pre-work where they got us doing elevator pitches and resumes and building our career skills so we can get into the career paths we want to get in and having partnerships with everybody. I have an interview Wednesday, actually, so I'm waiting for that. Today they had us also, practicing our elevator pitches with our classmates, and it's overall a good program, but it is a lot of work,
A lot of work
to do.
How long is your elevator pitch?
About 15, 20 seconds.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Hello, my name is Danae Weaver. I'm a senior at Kenwood Academy. I partake in activities at my school as my number one as a football manager for my boys football team. I'm also a part of Ladies of Virtue, the Upper Bound program, and I was also a Girl Scout for 11 years. And that's about it.
That's great. I wish you the best of luck in your interview.
Thank you.
So we talked, what's next for you? Are you headed to college?
Yes.
Okay, and you told me you applied to 40 colleges.
Applied to 40 colleges and got accepted to 13.
Wonderful. 13 for 13 though so far.
Yes.
Congratulations, that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Where do you want to go and what do you want to do?
As of right now, my top choice is Central Michigan
Wonderful.
University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Okay.
I want to major in education. I'm not sure if I want to do middle school education or elementary education, and I want a minor in sports management. As of right now, I'm trying to get a certificate in early childhood education at Kennedy King. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Do you think your experience with Ladies of Virtue led you to the path to want to become an educator?
Yes, because they put me in a lot of leadership roles where I had to talk to the younger girls in the program. So I like the fact of being around younger kids and being a boss. And so
it's fun, right?
it's actually fun. So that got me into like, I want to talk to kids and I want to be a mentor for kids to be able to open up to me and stuff around that, because I was seeing videos here and there, because at first I wanted to be a fashion designer, I think a doctor and stuff like that, but I couldn't be no doctor. I couldn't do it. But I'm like, I like the fact of being around kids and telling them what to do and having them have a safe space with me. And I also want to major in psychology, because you can get it from my friends. I go into depth about, if someone asks me a question, I'm going to go extremely deep about it. So with Ladies of Virtue, they let me be me. Like, it's never a boring moment with me or any of the mentors, especially my mentor. I really have a great mentor, and me and my mentor relate on a lot of levels. So it was just a fun and safe space to be in. And it also helped me with my major and my career path.
I love it. I'm so excited for you. So tell me about, as we wrap up, why is mentorship so important, especially to young women in Chicago, in our communities?
It's important because a lot of women or girls, I would say around my age or older, we don't have that safe space to speak to, you have your friends and stuff like that. And that you have an open space when it comes to that. But it's important to have a mentorship, because sometimes people need help even when they don't want to say that they need help. And as much as you say that you don't need help, you're going to need it eventually, because you, as a woman or a man, a child, a dog, but as much as you say you don't need it, you will. You holding all the emotional stress and feelings inside is going to break you down faster and faster. And everyone needs a person or a passion to get into so they can just escape life for a little bit, or just to feel like everything is not crashing down, or just feel so sad.
It's someone to lean on, right?
Yes.
I love it all and agree with you 100% on everything you said. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Of course.
So excited for you and following your journey. It's so clear that Ladies of Virtue has had a profound impact on Danae and so many others' lives, and we're so excited to continue to follow and support their journey. We'll be right back with this week's Change in Action.
Welcome back. Each week we highlight an individual doing good in our community. Let's meet this week's Change in Action.
I feel like it's important to me because it's literally my passion.
Baby cracks of thoughts Hi, my name is Daisha Cheney, and I am a program coordinator and facilitator for Polished Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program. Polished Pebbles is a girls-based mentoring program. We have mentored over 10,000 girls within the Chicagoland area and have over 600 mentors for these students as well. Our primary focus is to ensure girls are equipped with effective communication skills. We're able to build up their confidence and teach them how to become the best versions of themselves. So I am a program facilitator and program coordinator. As a facilitator or mentor, I work at 10 Chicagoland schools throughout the area. For me, a mentor is important because a mentor is someone who helps you grow your skills, make better decisions, and gain a new perspective on life or their personal career. So it's important to me to assist with girls and push them to also become the best version of themselves and give them that additional push that they need in order to stay motivated. I've been working with Polished Pebbles for 2 years now. I originally began as an intern, so in order for me to graduate and get my degree in psychology, I had to, intern with a specific organization, and I chose Polished Pebbles because their mission aligned with my purpose. I think it's extremely important for me to give back to the communities in which I live and currently even live now. Polished Pebbles has allowed me to grow throughout their organization, and I want to continue to encourage girls throughout, different schools and communities to know that they can grow and they can, learn and take from any opportunity that is presented to them. All girls or all individuals should have the opportunity to have a safe space or an outlet, essentially, for them. Since I previously had the opportunity to have multiple mentors throughout my life, and I've always had that second level of encouragement, I always want to be a safe space and, just allow for girls to be themselves and express themselves freely to me. Ever since growing up, I've been the person that everyone can come to and they can talk to and they can lean on, for an extra level of support. So me being able to provide a literal safe space for all the girls to come and, let out their feelings and talk about what they're going through and actually be heard is important to me. A star, because you're a star. You're so funny, buddy. Being a mentor has allowed me to become the best version of myself because I know that girls are looking up to me as a role model, and I aspire to always, continue to grow professionally and develop who I am as a woman.
Thank you for your mentorship. Studies show that mentored youth are likely to have fewer absences from school, better attitudes towards and in school, less drug and alcohol use, more positive attitudes towards others, and improved relationships with their parents. There are several organizations that offer mentorship opportunities, and I urge you to seek them out and sign up to be a mentor. Our youth, our children are our future, and mentors can help them determine who they want to become, help them find the path forward, and be an invaluable source of support. I leave you with a quote from Denzel Washington. Show me a successful individual, and I'll show you someone who had real positive influences in his or her life. I don't care what you do for a living. If you do it well, I'm sure there was someone cheering you on or showing the way. A mentor. My fellow change agents, I look forward to seeing you next week.